Today, as we meet after the festival, which is called as Peda Paduga, Makar Sankranti, Pongal, or Magh Bihu, or Magha Mela in different states in India. So I wish all the panelists and participants that the season of harvest open the door for light and happiness and erase all the troubles from your life. Good evening from CA Charni Shah on behalf of IASB Board, who will be the moderator of today's virtual webinar on global trends in internal audit, a look ahead. As Sankranti literally means movement of sun from south to north, everything that we recognize as life is movement. If it were still, it wouldn't be capable of life. So to move deeper into the knowledge of internal audit, the Internal Audit Standard Board, under the able leadership of Central Council member C.S. Nanda sir, has organized this session. As we know that the expert of anything was once a beginner. To start with the session, we have with us CA Ashish Mittal, Chairman, Karnal Branch of NIRC of ICI. Ashish sir, please enlighten our participants. Over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. It's a great privilege for Karnal branch that IASB had provided an opportunity to host this program. Today, as we know, this is a webinar on global trends in internal audit, and our speakers are with us, Mr. Jitendra Gauriya ji and Vijay Kumar ji, to enlighten on this. And it is going to be a very wonderful session that we are here. We have get the chance to connect with this meeting and to learn from them. Thank you.
When life is sweet, say thank you and celebrate. So thank you, sir, for your gracious present. So we are fortunate that we have with us a person who comes with new ideas and think what he can serve the best to our fellow chartered accountants. That is Chairman, Internal Audit Standard Board and Digital Accounting and Assurance Board, Vice Chairman of Banking, Financial Services and Insurance Committee, none other than Central Council member C.S. Nanda sir. He was a member of Quality Review Board set up by the Government of India. He was member of SEBI Advisory Committee on Primary Market and Mutual Fund, and also represented ICI on SEBI Committee on Disclosure of Accounting Standards. He was a convener of expert group constituted by MCA and Government of India on investment protection. He was chairman of NIRC of ICI in the year 2002-2003. With this brief introduction, I welcome C.S. Nanda sir. Over to you.
Thanks a lot, Charmi Shah, the moderator of today's session. The three relevant speakers of the day, CA Jitendra Indoria ji, Shri Vijay Kumar ji, who is also a chartered accountant, M. Surendra Reddy ji, who is also a chartered accountant. The chairman of Karnal branch, C. Ashish Mittal, has very kindly consented to be the host of today's program. Shivani Nigam, the technical support by Mr. J and internal audit entire team which could make this webinar happen. Ladies and gentlemen, times have changed in a manifold way. There were times when we started in internal audit, and today times have come when we have become an undisputed leader both in technology and internal audit. Yes, technology may sound peculiar to you, but the fact is that today technocrats look upon chartered accountants for the process outlines, for the content, and more importantly, the expectations of the industry to more mobilize those things. I'm reminded of the days when we were novice in these fields. There is a couplet which says, "Aate na the jinke jawab, unke salam aane lage. Aate na the jinke jawab, unke salam aane lage. Waqt badla, to mere neem par aam aane lage." Waqt badal gaya hai. Times have changed manifold. And in order to keep in pace with these changing times, your board is ever ready to ensure that we host many of such programs with newer set of speakers. Mr. Indoria is now CFO of a very big company, but his first love is internal audit. And a CFO also needs to know what the internal auditor is doing. I know Mr. Vijay Kumar since long with Green Lamp, a person who has dedicated his entire life to ensure that all processes are in the right perspective. Mr. Reddy, again, is a practitioner who works very deeply to provide the best assurance to the management. Internal audit essentially is a management function, and you have to report to the audit committee or to the board as the case may be. And we are very lucky that we serve not only our clients or stakeholders, but the government and regulators. Ladies and gentlemen, the first topic of today's session would be by CA Vijay Kumar Bishnoi, who is Internal Audit Head and Chief Risk Officer of Green Lamp Industries Limited. This topic shall be Internal Audit Organization Universe Update and Scope Finalization. Very importantly, scope plays a very important area. You would recollect that where scams have been unearthed in listed entities or otherwise big entities, the first question arises about the internal audit report and statutory audit report. When it comes to internal audit report, the first question that arises is on the scope, whether the scope has been thoroughly deliberated by the auditor. What are the scope limitations? Have they been clearly written? What is the update? How things have moved and areas where you were stuck? Was that fact brought before the chair audit committee? Ladies and gentlemen, internal audit organization, universe update and scope finalization is something that would change the entire thought process of the auditors who would ultimately undertake to take internal audits. More importantly, we have had a paradigm shift where we use technology. Technology gives us three imperative benefits. Number one, you needn't work on a sample, you work on the whole data. Number two, the output is error-free. And number three, computers don't have wives, they don't have spouses, and therefore timelines are met on exact basis. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, the topic by Mr. Vijay Kumar is really a very pertinent and important topic. The second topic is by CAM Surendra Reddy, who would speak on role of internal auditor as advisor. The board needs internal auditors. The board, in its competitive edge, in mitigating its risk perspective, in creating value and worth, in percolating its mission and vision, always relies upon an internal auditor. And that work which an internal auditor does in his advisory role is very pertinent because that brings an important thought process to the management where it has faulted or where certain corrective actions have to be taken. You have to understand one thing very clearly. Process have to be robust and strong. There's a complaint which says the chain cannot be stronger than its weakest point. Yes, where controls start diminishing, getting low, there's a breeding place for the frauds to come in. As internal audits day in, day out, what do we see? We see the process and do the process testing to ensure where the process is weak or where there are loopholes so that unwanted elements in form of risk may come in. A very important topic by none other than Mr. Reddy, who's practicing chartered accountant, who has done this over his years. And the third speaker of the day, my very dear friend, Sri Jitendra Indoria. Mr. Jitendra Indoria sits on a visionary position, a man who could see from the top what is required. Now he's a CFO. He's led his life as an internal auditor, but now he has been elevated as a CFO. And his topic is modern topics and trends in internal audit. Internal audit is ever changing. Every day you have new trends in internal audit because it is essentially a management function where you have to determine what are the areas where focus of the management has to be. And the internal audit is the first leg to do that. So Mr. Indoria, with his rich experience and more importantly, his thought process, would discuss on modern topics and trends in internal audit. Ladies and gentlemen, I would not like to stand between you and the respected speakers. It is really great, and I want to end with the promise. The board is always there. The board is always at your beck and call. I was the founder chairman of this board way back in 2004 when I joined the council for the first time. Over the years, I have loved this board and I want that board to contribute to ensure that the institute moves up to unprecedented heights. So, ladies and gentlemen, over to Charmi for further proceedings. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to interact with you. Bye-bye.
I feel thankfulness, as thankfulness is the beginning of gratitude. Gratitude is the completion of thankfulness. So, thankfulness may consist merely of words which I may say about Sir, but gratitude is shown by his acts for our own fellow chartered accountants. Very Hemmet, thank you and gratitude to Sir for your presence and for organizing this session. So, when we walk into doors of our profession, we knew some things, but due to continuous knowledge sharing that we have gained through these sessions, today we will continue our knowledge series. We have our session on internal audit organization, universe update, and scope finalization by CA Vijay Kumar Bishoy, sir. He is internal audit head and CRO of Green Lamp Industries Limited, qualified chartered accountant, certified internal auditor, and certified CSR expert from ICAI with 16-year plus of rich experience in internal audit and ERM, business continuity plan, SOX, forensic and special internal investigation. Other than internal audit, he has a vast experience of SOPs development, RACM, IFC control designing, credit control, and commercial control. With this brief introduction, I welcome you, sir, and floor is open for your knowledge. Over to you.
Thank you, Charmi. Thank you so much for the detailed introductions. I believe I'm audible. So you are able to hear me. So thank you so much for the introduction. And Nanda sir, thank you so much. I listen you near about 8 to 9 minutes, because we are in the intro bit, so time is the money. So I noted down. But really, you covered the 90-minute topics. So I could note it few points. So one of quote again, I want to quote to the listener of the today's session. So today the technology is leading the world, but the techno is looking towards the chartered accountant. Really, I appreciate your this thought, sir. And this is true. Yes, this is true. So let me begin with and before I start my session, I'm really thankful to Nanda sir and the Mishra sir and Mr. Ashish Mitra from the Canal branch and all the tech team, and especially for the Charmi to support us. And they are in touch with us since last week. Really, I appreciate your follow-up and support. Yeah. Hi, Charmi. I believe my screen is visible to you all.
Very much. We should, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, sir. So today I choose the topic, the audit universe and audit scope. Why I choose? Because I faced some issue while making the audit universe. So whatever I learned, I learned from the colleagues like you and the institute of our esteemed institute ICI and the IIAA. So when Nanda sir asked me have a webinar on the important topics, so I requested him to let me take this topic. With the others, the newcomer or the other chartered accountant or the who are heading the internal audit like that or working the internal audit domain. So that's why I choose this topic. So this is the Charmi and the other colleagues. This is the agenda for today. So we'll try to cover in the 40 minute or 35 minute what is the audit universe. And I know many of the participants knows already about the audit universe. But once again, I will discuss my experience, my learning with you. And then the second agenda would be the audit universe support to the internal audit department for effective audit planning. And finally, the time allows us that we will cover why the internal audit scope finalization is so important. So let me through directly the first topic. So audit universe. So let's begin the definition of the internal audit, given by the Institute of Internal Audit USA. So according to the IIA, internal auditing is an independent, objective assurance and consulting activity designed to add value and improve the organization operation. You have listened this definition many times, but once again, I thought that let's read for you. So it helps an organization accomplish its objective by bringing a systematic, disciplined approach to evaluate and improve the effectiveness of risk management, control, and governance process. This is called the GRC. So here I would like to take a few moments for you. So what is this? Internal audit help organization to maintain the effectiveness. It is most important effectiveness of the risk management, control, and the governance. If the control management is not effective, your control management is not effective, governance policy is not effective, there is no meaning to have these GRs into the system. So this is very much important. Everything should have very effective, very reasonable. So now I'm coming directly to the definition of the audit universe. So what is the definition of the audit universe? So an audit universe represents the potential range of all audit activity, all audit possible audit within your organization or within your group. Is comprised of the several audit entity. These entity generally include a range of program, activities, functions, structures, and initiative which collectively contribute to the achievement of the department and strategic objective. An organization audit universe is a detailed standalone document that is updated on the periodic basis. This is the most important. If you don't update the audit universe on the periodical basis, there is no benefit of the audit universe in actually. The universe has to be developed against all the department, functions, geographical location, and core managed control, taking into the consideration the company organization structures, and then the chief audit executive or the IA head prepare risk-based audit plan for the year. So who discuss many times that every activity, every process, every department, every activity is supposed to have the audit by the internal audit team or the outsource audit internal audit team. So this is very much important that you must have the complete universe, then only your audit plan can have a effective audit planning. So the concept of the audit universe is summarized potential internal audit topic in a very easily understandable list, but really efforts needs larger sites. So this can help you to choose, and why you want to choose this audit for the year, the audit universe can help you. So that's why it is very important, and you have to start your audit planning with the audit universe. So this is the complete range of like that when you enter into the showroom. Let's take the example of the Vijay sales or Chroma like that. Why you visit to the metro cities, the customer like to visit to the Vijay sales or Chroma? Because they have the complete range of the electronics. They in a single showroom they can get each and every item which they want to take for their living or their house. So this is the reason that when you have the complete and updated audit universe, then you can make your effective audit planning for the coming year, and accordingly you can discuss with the management, audit committee, or the board. So this is the most important, that you must have the audit universe, and audit universe has to be updated on the routine periodic basis. So now the audit universe, why it is required, what is the benefit, why it is so important. So as per the global standard practice, and this is very common practice in India also, that the internal audit cover few selected assignment during the every financial year, because every year internal audit team cannot cover all the function, all the process, all the branch, or the warehouse, or the plant manufacturing activity. This is not really possible for any company. So on the rotation basis, the internal audit team, it can be the in-house internal audit team, it can be outsourced internal audit team, they cover on the rotation basis. But what is the base of that rotation? You must have some document. Why you choose this audit for the year, and why you have not choose this item for the year. You must have the reason. As Nanda sir stated in his opening remarks, that you must have some reason. If you selected some audit assignment, you must have reason. If you have not selected this reason, what is the reason that you have not selected it? So IA team, internal audit team, cover all the assignment on the rotation basis. The best practice suggests to cover reasonable number of audit every year basis on the risk assessment associated with the activity and organization practices. Few aspects are as under. So risk associated with the activity or process, this is the most important aspect. So every whichever the your unit or your process, your activity, branch, business, product have the higher risk, you must choose on the regular frequency. And then the board and audit committee requirement. Sometime board asks the next time when you are going for audit, or during the year also, sometime board asks, you can drop 1 or 2 journal audit and please try to cover this process, this branch, this audit, this product. So these aspects play very vital role to make the effective audit universe or the complete audit universe. This is the right word, complete audit universe. So risk associated with the activity or process. Then board audit committee requirement or recommendation or instruction, whatever you want to use here, you can use it. And then sometimes the management recommendation or ask also. Sometimes CEO asks, sometimes CFO asks that we want to check this, we want to cover this, or we shall cover this item during the next year. Please cover this. And then the new business or unexpected business result. So every auditor or the IA team must cover when there is a new business. So not immediately or with the start of new business over a 1 period or a 2 period, but you shall select these. Then new law, compliance, other requirement introduced by any competent authority. It can be SEBI, it can be the Company Affairs Ministry, it can be the Government of India or the local competent authority. So, and then the available resources. These are few important aspects. Basis on these, you have to prepare, you have to make your audit universe, and these all are the very vital role. So need one complete list of the this is not exhaustive list, and there may be any other aspect I have kept here for few example and for your understanding. So need one complete list of possible audit at organization level, at company level, at group level, along with the risk associated with those assignment. This is the very significant word, risk associated. If any process, any department, any branch, any warehouse, any product, any manufacturing activity have the higher risk, the frequency of audit should be very early. You can choose every year or once. Sometime it is good to have the once in a two or twice in a 1 year. Okay. So when you don't have any such list for the audit selection for the year, effective audit planning is difficult, really very difficult. So how can you choose? How can you plan when you don't have the complete era? Okay. So to make the better understanding on the audit universe, so let's discuss the what is the audit activity sequence, how to start the audit. So first of all, you must have the audit charter, then the audit universe. So first step would be there. So you have authorized audit charter. You must prepare what is your obligation, what are your rights. That should be signed off by the board and then the management. So management agreement would be there by the audit charter, and the board will authorize the internal audit. It can be the in-house or the external. So there should be a signed off audit charter in your company for your internal audit activity. Then audit universe, which the topic we are discussing. Then the audit selection, planning, and approval. This is the next item. And then when you have the plan and the approval from the audit committee, then you have to allocate your audit and then execute all the audit as agreed. Then next step would be the audit report finalization and reporting. And finally, you have to deliver the report, and then you need to keep the follow-up audit as well and the observation tracker. So auditor cannot live in between the second last item, the audit report finalization and reporting. So this is not the completion of your role and responsibility. You have to do follow-up till the closure date or the open observation tracker, like that. So I have kept few important aspects here for your better understanding. Significant subject for audit universe. So how to make the effective audit universe? You have to ensure that you must cover. You shall cover. I would like to use must. You must cover these aspects or the subject when you are going to build up or you are going to update your audit universe for your organization or your company. So these are few I have noted here, few items, important. Entity's missions. This is very important. Align the entity objective and mission with the possible risk. Firstly, need to assess the entity level potential risk. Please note, risk assessment is not part of the audit universe, but it is very important for the audit universe or audit planning. So here we are assuming that and the organization have this separate exercise for the ERM or BCP like that. So when you get the ERM result from, it may be possible that the internal auditor is looking for the ERM, or there would be some separate team for that. But what are the result of the ERM? You must get your risk register as a result of the ERM activity. So understand what was the entity mission and what are the top risk for the organizations. So cover all these risks with your audit universe. Then the org chart can be a key document for the audit universe. I experienced with my colleagues that without knowing the organization chart, they start the audit. Really, friend, this is not good exercise, good not practice. This message will not go. Good message, no good message go into the market or the organization. So when you start when you take any charge or when you start the audit, must go through the organization charts. So when you take the charge for the any company as a head or the number 2 or number 3 or audit manager, please have the organization chart in your custody or in your records. If you able to make this organization chart, or you can get this organization chart from the HR, an updated version. This will help you to most for effective audit universe updation. So this is the only way you can know the entire company, how many department with the company, who is leading the department, how many warehouse or the production activity. So this chart can help you a lot. Then the business knowledge. This is also again very important. The chief audit executive or the senior member of IAT shall have good knowledge of organization, business, and the operation. Then only can they add value, as we read in the first slide of the presentation, that the audit which is consulting and value adding activity. Noted many instances during the practical work or during the practical audit, many times without experience, senior or junior team members sent for the internal audit activity. Once the audit comes to know the weakness that the audit team is not aware about the business knowledge of the company, there would be no meaningful result will come. They will not support. They will sometime. I am not claiming that they will not support, but many times they come to know that the auditor are not familiar with the business practice. Then the effective result will not come. So please try when you go or you send your team on the field for the audit. Please pass the proper business knowledge to them. Then the internal audit charter. Again, we will be discussing the same point, but really this is again the most important document. IA charter, internal audit charter, and the audit universe are Bible for any audit head or the chief audit executive. Go through this document and understand the right and obligation of the audit team. What have to serve for the management and what are our rights? What type of limitation can be accepted? But normally, the internal audit team don't accept any limitation. In case if you don't have the IA charter, requesting you build as soon as possible. This is the IA head responsibilities to create the internal audit charter. Really, friend, I was very surprised when I checked with my other colleagues. 67% IA head or CA don't have the IA charter. When I took the charge of the IA activity with my previous organization, then I asked my predecessors, please share the internal charter. And he said, what is this? He was no overseas person. He was not Indian. So I was very much surprised. He person is taking the internal audit activity since last 4 to 5 years, and he don't have the IA charter. Then I asked for the audit, the universe, and then same reply. I don't have. So then I tried to check with my circle that are you having. So I took the sample near about 120 numbers and 81. I remember the right 81 or 80 numbers. The companies don't have the internal audit charter, and these companies are not very the low revenue. All the companies are having the turnover more than 200 crore or 300 crore up to 10,000 crore. So this is, please note, this is very important for you. And then last but not least, the latest business environment, new business and capex introduced or the old year audit list. So all these are items. All of us very much familiar with the requirement of the latest business environment. Recently, the pandemic gave us a huge dent, but at the same time, we learned a lot about the new way of business or living. List down all these aspects and make a complete list of possible audit. So dear friend, whatever technique, whatever practice you adopt, it's your choice. But please don't forget these subjects while you are making the audit universe for the company, for the organizations. Please consider this. So how the your audit universe can add value? I have tried to make some live example for your better understanding. So let's take first example, annual audit planning without audit universe. If you don't have the adequate audit universe, the detailed audit universe, then how will you choose? You can choose simply that finance and account audit, HR audit, marketing audit, RT audit, 12 branch audit out of the 24. So 50% branches you want to cover this year. 6 warehouse audit out of 12 numbers of total. So it means you are going to cover 50% the warehouse or the CFA audit during the year. Then the plant audit. So which plant, which activity you are going to cover the manufacturing, we are going to cover the quality, you are going to the stocking, which type of. So here there is no detail because you don't have audit units in place, you cannot plan. Then what type of the challenges to be faced without the audit universe? So are these so in link with the left side, the audit selected here mentioned here, I have prepared some queries for our discussion. Are those covered as a single unit audit or need to be covered for whole detailed process? Remain significant gap. Let's take example the financial account audits. When you don't have the audit universe in place, how can you choose which part of the finance account you want to cover? Finance and account is not a simple audit as on date. It is very wide. You want to cover AP, AR, you want to cover financial closing like that. So that's why the audit universe play very, very vital role to choose. And why you are going to choose this? Then how many main days are required? What type of the resource are required? Is any external support expected? Can be covered online from the remote office. Any data analytic to be performed along with the audit. Any limitation is there with the audit team? What are the possible impact in case cannot be covered during the year like that? So when you don't have the audit universe in place, so this right side item not the part of the audit universe, but you can get the answer when you have the audit universe in place. Then but when you have the adequate process to keep the audit universe updated, you may have the completeness of the possible audit assignment. So now we are discussing the really value added item when you have the audit universe. So when you have the audit universe, completeness of the possible audit assignment, you can get the assurance. Effective audit unit selection basis on the resources available. I will share by the example also in the coming slide. Effective internal audit planning, then internal audit human resources and budget planning. Resources capturing for the audit exclusion for the region, region capturing for the audit exclusion for the year. Why you are not going to cover this unit? Effective audit result delivery when you have your target clear. When you have very, very clear target, then only you can deliver the effective result. Positive alignment with the external auditor, audit committee, etc. When you have reason for the audit selected or not selected. So this is the example which I am discussing since last 8 or 9 slides. So when you have the complete the audit universe, so I kept this as an example. This is not the standard template released by any institute or any agency. I made for your better understanding. So in the previous slide, we discussed this. We want to cover the financial account or the IT or the marketing. This is not sufficient for any on date. So let's discuss. So I have tried to make some audit universe for your better understanding. So main process. So you can see we can start from the upper side, left side. Human resources. Human resources department have how many type of sub process and audit? Operational, talent acquisition, learning and development, succession planning, payroll, incentive and compliance. So for your example, these are the. But when you don't have the audit units, you can mention you want to cover the human resources. But dear friend, this is not possible that a single under the one single audit you can cover all the processes. Now the business practice has been changed in comparison to last 10 year or 20 year. there is a sub process, and they are playing very vital role for their main process. So like that, the marketing have the ATL above the line and below the line, and then finance accounts. So I kept few examples for your understanding: general accounting, financial closing, LODR requirement, provision verification, account receivable, credit control, account payable, budget versus actual, treasury, FEMA requirement, LC control, bank payment, compliance, cash flow, FENA, then IFC, and then fixed asset register and RV testing. So 10 years ago, there was a single audit was happening. The auditor will come and they give the notice that we want to call the finance accounts. And there was a limited requirement from the law side, from the SEBI side, from the company Minister of Company Affair, like that. But now the total scene has been changed. So under the main process, there are very significant sub process. So you cannot cover all the aspect under the one finance account or market or human resources. So when you have the audit unit place, you can make this type of audit universe, and you can get help to decide which unit you want to choose for the coming year and what is the reason that you are going to select it. So you can map RNC, the IFC, then policy and status. If you have the policy or the internal control policy or SOP in place, so you can choose for yes or no. Like that, you can link the previous audit result also. So N stand for the current year, and N minus one last to last year, and minus two last year. Okay, like that. So if any department is getting the very high rating, like high risk rating, so you can choose in the regular frequency, like that. Then IT control. If any process has the good IT control, you can skip for 1 year or 2 year, and third year or fourth year you can choose it, because as Nanda sir said, IT has no wives. Whatever the rule you will decide, the IT will give the same result. And then the external support required. This is also very important factor. If you have requirement of the external support, so every year you can ask, you cannot ask from the management. Then recommendation from the CEO or audit committee or CFO. So all these factors you can capture here, and you can make the effective audit universe, and you can pick and choose. Most important, the line is last three line, the right side, main days required. When you have your detailed main process, sub process, the process capturing in the audit universe, then you can plan how many main days required. If you will plan all the audit in every year, so how can it possible? And then most important, the second last item, audit resource level. So while making this activity, you can link that. So that if, let's take example, payroll incentive compliance. This is not, the junior guy cannot complete this. You need some senior resources, AGM level or GM level. I capture here for your example, for your understanding. This is not the actual requirement. You can map as per your the business practice or the resources available. And then accordingly, you can make the final decision that you are going to cover this process in next year. And this is the reason that you are not going to cover, because internal audit duty has a limited manpower, and within the available manpower, available resources, available budget, you have to manage the activity. So this is I believe I have delivered you the importance of the audit universe, how can help it. And this is not exhaustive list, I have declared it, and there are many other aspects. This I made for your understanding. So this is the red circle. This is the actual audit universe, and this is the right side. The audit universe, how can help you to make your effective planning. So this is I covered the audit universe. The next topic I will try to cover in next 5 minutes because time is running. So sorry. To audit scope and general definition. So I will try to cover in 5 minutes. Okay. Audit scope defined as the amount of time and document which are involved in a audit is an important factor in all the audit. The audit scope ultimately establishes how deeply an audit is performed. It can range from the simple to complete, including all the company documents. The scope and objective for every audit are determined through discussion with the department management or PIC, person in charge, and a department-specific risk assessment. While each audit is unique, so whatever resources, whatever effort required for the branch audit, the audit for the head office department can be different and shall be different. But so while each audit is unique, but still few general or common objective applied for the most audit. The same scope shall not be utilized for all the audit assignment, and most of the time, auditors shall keep changing the audit scope for same audit assignment next time. When you keep the same audit scope every year, result will not come as expected. We shall not forget that all type of audit, it can be internal audit, external audit, income tax audit, GST audit, for example, only have significant value, reason and requirement to conduct these audit, but the expectation or output from all the different audit may have significantly different. As we discussed earlier, internal audit help organizations to maintain effectiveness of the risk management control and GRC. So you have to select your audit assignment very smartly, and you must have the reason why this audit scope you have chosen. So for your better understanding, I have made some comparison against the comparison like we made the comparison for the audit universe. So these are a few aspects which you need to be considered while making the audit scope. So these are the technical scope, the nature of the business activities being audited, then complexity of the business activity being analyzed, the risk associated with the business activity being audited, result of the pre-data or the GS, general ledgers analysis, then potential impact on the organization's ability to perform its mission due to the non-compliance or the non-performing by the business activity being audited, and the level of the external support needed. All these are the technical aspects. So whatever resource you have available, what are the expertise you have available, based on these technical aspect, you need to decide the scope. When you have the effective scope, then the result would be effective. Otherwise, this audit would be general. And these are the few general aspects. You cannot skip these general aspects also. So you must read the previous audit report, comments from the external auditor on the management. You must get the comments. Then necessary to understand the SOP. This is you can say the important point. So when you start for audit for any department or process or any plant, any audit assignment, you must get the understanding of the SOP and the policy established for the process and department. Then you have one question: is any significant update or change happened in business practice or SOP during 12 months, last 12 months? This is also important aspect. Is any CSA, control self-assessment, is in practice? If yes, this can give very meaningful insight. Two company have the CSA. CSA stand for the every department, they are doing their self-checking, and they are declaring their the acceptance or the deviation, and they mitigate the deviation in the due course. So I kept, in the interest of time, I kept this audit scope presentation very limited. So I would like to read for you. So if there is a strong ITAC and ITGC control, give comfort to audit team to allocate more time to manual control review. As Nanda sir said, the IT, if you have the very technological or the IA in place, AI in place, artificial intelligence or the technical audit, you can allocate your available time in place of the IT audit to the manual control. Exceptional growth or degrowth in the revenue or cost in comparison to the other similar unit or products shall be reviewed through the various audit mechanism and ratio analysis. And the support to the P&L and the component gives assurance to the balance sheet shall review very carefully at the period. If IIT do participation for the half yearly or yearly physical verification of the warehouse, at the time of warehouse audit, the physical verification can be skipped because it would be the repetition of the activity. When you are already participating the annual basis or half yearly basis, so during the special warehouse audit, you can skip. Surplus time may be utilized for the other value item. In case if any process is centralized, concerned activities shall review at the central level, like the customer or vendor registration. When you are going for the branch audit, and all the customer onboarding is happening at the central. So I believe you can skip this activity at the branch level. You can, as a whole, you can check with the head office. High risk rated observation items shall be extended to the same nature of business unit. If at any branch you are getting very few significant observation, you must apply same checking to the other branch also. And during the next audit of the same unit, please check. Then the pre-audit data analysis can help you allot effective audit scope analysis. Dear friend, please try to have a pre-audit meeting before the kickoff meeting. During this meeting, you can select few items, you can draw few items where the process in place and the internal control level is sufficient and reasonably working. So please try to make. So there is two type of meeting before during the interview. One is the kick-off meeting, and the second is the closure meeting. But the best practice is that you must have one meeting before you have the kick-off meeting. So it is really very necessary to keep updated your audit scope on the set frequency, like half yearly or annually, for effective result and impressive response from the auditee as well as the management also. Please note, wider scope does not give 100% assurance. Please note, wider scope does not give the 100% assurance to find out all the leakages or exceptions. Adequate audit scope give IAT better result. Thank you so much. Charmi, this is all from my side. Charmi, over to you. Charmi?
Yes. Sir,
Yeah.
we have certain questions coming up.
Yeah.
So, first question is internal audit certification, where IA is mandatory. Is there any specific format that we need to follow?
No such. Charmi, I believe I'm not able to get your question or.
Okay, so I'll repeat it. Internal audit certification, where IA is mandatory, is there any specific format that we need to follow?
No such the format is there. Yes.
So that's all from the question side of our participant. So thank you so much, sir, for sharing your valuable time and knowledge with the participants. Your presentation was very lucid, that everyone could understand and how grasped it also. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Charmi. Over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So moving on to the next session. Last session words belong to last session, and next session words awaits another voice. And for the next voice, we have with us session speaker CA M. Sundran Reddy, sir. And he's going to have a topic of role of internal auditor as advisor. So he has a rich experience of 15 years, and he is certified under IFRS course conducted by ICAI. He's the Joint Secretary of Institute of Internal Audit Bangalore chapter, and his specialization is audit and assurance, statutory audit, internal audit, compliance audit, concurrent audit, SOP implementation, e-commerce, retail and trade, hospitality industry, infrastructure and real estate, power generation, education industry. With this brief introduction, I welcome you, sir, and stage is all over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. And first of all, I would like to thank the Institute, especially the Internal Audit Standard Board, giving me an opportunity and presenting my thoughts today. And I also thank my co-speakers, especially Mr. Vijay Kumar, took us through quite a lot of how do we plan the entire scope for a particular industry. Probably I'll come into saying that how having identified the scope and other things, how do we do an audit quite differently than compared to the old methods, and how we can make it as an advisory role to a client. That's where my topic will come. I'll just in a minute, I'll just put on my presentation. You're able to see, right?
Yes, sir.
Probably my topic will break into three parts. What was an approach, traditional approach? I'll keep it very, very limited. Probably I'll also run you through some of the surveys that we have. In the past, either IAA is done or a PwC, some of the firms done on the expectation of an auditor as an internal auditor under the advisory role. I'll take you through the surveys, how it's been emerging from year on year or past 5 years, how was it, and present, how is it, expectations, and what are the other different approaches that we can have an internal audit, more robust, uh, client friendly, probably what is the value we can bring into the client as an advisor. Probably that's what I will be taking you through the next 45 minutes or 50 minutes, and probably in the end, open for any questions. If you look at it, traditionally, the focus of internal audit, if you look at it, we allow provide an independent, objective assurance to the board or a management or an audit committee, and it focuses on various effectiveness of companies' governance or a risk management or a control processes. And once we evaluation is done, we used to provide the audit reports and probably all three elements like a control and risk management processor and how the overall governance of particular company. Typically, if you look at it, this is what traditionally we have been covering in the internal audit. And if you look at it, probably in the performance of traditional audit, whether we had completely expertise in terms of the that particular industry, yes or no. Again, internal auditors may have an industry specific knowledge, but somewhere we would be little lacking on the terms of expert knowledge in terms of that relevant area for that particular client. If you have to look at it, we may not be. I'll take you through in the subsequent slides how we overcome and how do we bridge that gap. Even in a coverage point of view, typically, if you look at it, we would see what are the auditable units, how do we cover for the overall year part of it. That way, probably Vijay also is articulated how we can capture the entire operations of a company, how do we scope it out and see where there can be a comprehensive scoping, and probably he did quite a good analysis in that part of it. And if you look at the periodicity part of it, typically we cover the past data. Mostly it's either it could be the half yearly, monthly, or a quarterly of the past data is analyzed and reported. Sometimes, especially the emerging trend companies, like a lot of startups where I come from, Bangalore, probably every day there is a new startup is born. And if you look at it, the previous quarter, I do a revenue audit and come back to the next quarter, probably client comes and say, there's a lot of processes being changed and whatever your report is irrelevant, probably you need to do the current audit. And sometimes our report is also goes irrelevant for the client when we are looking at too much of a past data. And if you look at again methodology, currently the internal audit rely on traditional methods of auditing, and still we have not applied too much of technology, automation, data analytics. All that part of it, a lot of firms are using it, but at large, if you have to look at it, we have been still doing the traditional approach of looking at Excel, taking the samples and that kind of thing. Probably my later part of the session would concentrate on more how we do the advisory role and how we use the traditional or how we use the latest technology of data analytics or the cloud computing, whatever it is. Those are the things I will be again addressing. Again, if you look at it, there are four pillars. Normally, the traditional audit is done. Compliance risk, we would look at it. IT risk, to some extent. Mostly, it is ITGC sort of a thing. And finance risk and some extent only the operational risks also covered, not completely if you look at it. And certain part of it we cover, maybe some part of it we don't even cover. Now, if you look at it, the analysis, some of the study done by PwC, the survey when you look at as an advisory role of an auditor in 2020 when they did for certain segment of companies, the expectation was the advisory side it was 55. Then next year again when they did the survey, it went up to 62%. It is of course again 21 survey. Latest survey it is not available. And if you look at it, IA function or in the spotlight as a stakeholder, expect IA to help deliver more strategic value to the client. And IA function also perceived as a trusted advisor in the organization to make sure that process remain good controls and plus compliant and efficient entire organization whatever the operations that they do and the multiple business cycles that they go through. And the IA is a transformation agent, and we need to be a little more agile, digitally enabled, and risk-based if it wants to keep up with the strategic needs of the organization that we serve. We have to get those kind of technologies into our audit approaches. And other survey which is done by the Confederation of IAA, if you look at it, internal audit role in the advisory. If you look at it, the majority of in every area, if you look at IT risk, the entire business operation cycles, 66%, 65%, depending on different various industries, they did the survey. The topmost is the trusted advisor. As a client, they are expecting we to play a role. And next is the consultant, and a normal audit, as in the last blue part of it, which is 10%. Slowly, the trend is changing. That's where probably we need to become more of an advisor and a consultant than in a traditional internal audit approach. And if you look at it, our own organization also, if you look at in the past 5 years, how the trend has been changing, probably the 2 years back, if you look at it, only the 20% of the clients were asking that it's not sufficient that we give the quarterly report or a monthly report or an annual report. They require an advice. How do they implement? What help is required driving them? That's what they want, an advisory role. Now, at present, if you look at it, 50% of the clients are expecting that, and which we are rendering also. And what I see a trend probably next 2 years or 5 years, if you move on, it go beyond 85% also, that the clients would expect this kind of a role. And it's not just sufficient that we complete the audit and give the report and walk away. I think they expect much more role in terms of the internal audit. Probably what are the things that we need to little differently do, how do we emphasize on the teams and such kind of things. If you have to look at it, one part of it is the audit universe, that what we audit is very important. This normally includes a predefined set of activities, units or entities, and each is assessed by traditional risk factors. But we also keep in mind the other approach would be to deconstruct corporate objectives of the company and identify non-traditional areas. Probably it could be in operations, which we would not be covering, only the financial part of it we are covering. And if you look at it, revenue to receivables, you have to look at right from the source of the client to the completely you sell the product or a service, and then the cash is remitted. The entire operation is audited through within that operations, and again look at the audit controls, where all we can apply the data analytics applications. Those are the audit of universes. That's where we'll have to keep it in mind in the new age audit. And in terms of the management interviews also would help us quite a lot. Meet with the executives and the stakeholders about what are the emerging risks. If you have a dialogue with the client and how they've been growing in the business, what are the changes that they've done for an operations or the business, and the different revenue cycles that they get, or different line of businesses which they operate, and the risk keep varying quarter on quarter or year on year. The continuous dialogue with the management is something which would help to understand and scope the audit plan, plus the coverage. It can be comprehensive that way when we have a dialogue with the management. Then if you look at the risk side, we must prioritize the risk factors, again keeping in the view that what is the corporate objective to what is that they want to achieve in terms of the goals, and what it is. Can we synchronize our audit program with their growth, and see that our teams also change, where we need to get the technology people or the engineers or architects, depending on which industry that they operate. Probably we need to gear up in the audit teams also similarly. And probably we'll also look at the risk universe side. The auditor should also understand how every risk affects the achievement of a corporate objectives, and where it will have a severe impact on their objectives. Those kind of risks, I think we need to capture in our audit programs and cover it and deliver what the corporate wants. That's the crucial part of it. How do we do that? Probably some integration into our audit programs, our teams, and restructuring what it's required. Probably new IT infrastructure, that what we have to look at it. It can be cloud computing. How many people in our audit team are capable of audit through the technology, data analytics, or any programs written? Typically, if you have to look at it, a lot of companies just they don't operate within the SAP or Navision or the same the particular financial ERPs. Probably on top of that, they'll have the transaction sort of to build for their own operations, because no software in the world can cater to a business, that kind of a business which emerge. Like you take a big basket today or the one and that kind of thing, they have a software plus those kind of a data which flow into the financial softwares. Probably how do we audit this part of it? How the programs are written, how they roll it out, how do they test? Is an audit team, are we capable of it? If not capable of it, can we get some people, or can we can test on behalf of auditors? Either it could be outsourced or it could, we can also keep it in sort of a contractual basis or client to client, whether it can come and do an audit on behalf of us. Restructuring of a team some extent, and standardize and optimize our programs to suit the client requirement, and re-engineering the entire scope, as like Vijay said, and dialogue with the management and quarter on quarter. Client is changing operations, and plus the expansion to the new market areas within the client. Now, probably if you look at it, a lot of before COVID, but then the COVID, they completely lost the business because physical part of it had that lost, and a lot of restaurants also started. Now, probably if you look at same traditional approach, what you are doing for an audit may not apply, but now you'll have to look at the order placement and the cash collection, remittances. This is the part of it also we'll have to look at into the programming of audit. And as I was mentioning, some of the part where as an internal audit team we are not capable can on behalf of the audit. Probably you are doing in an industry where they're into interior development, or the client has got in the real estate development where they provide office space, plug and play for a lot of clients. If you look at it, InduCube and these kind of clients, huge interior development. Do we have the methodology to check what the square feet cost of it, whether the measurements? As an auditor, we may not know. That's where probably the architects and the engineers help us in seeing the what is built is right quality, and probably begin the part of it. And again, other part of it is management philosophy, which they've been set by the management in the, and management ATRs are taking place, that is action taken reports, monitoring quarter on ATRs, that is action taken reports, have been implemented by the client. Then how we can help them in implement that in case they have a technical glitch or knowledge to implement. That's where we can as an advisory role, even implementation part of it. Thoughts I put it here, different approach. Where all we could look at an automation. It could be internally what we do. Operations, internal audit can suggest automation of certain process and help client build that kind of an implementation as which can help the client they do. There are still probably a lot of manual checks. A lot of companies see that payment get very. But team still at the manual basis. Tools. This is where exposure that can be suggested kind of an automation. We may not be able to provide the solution, but if you have capable, that's a different story. But at least is looking at the various can we help the client to see what are the areas that they can look at an automation at least. Then next comes the what are the best industry practices. You look at any manufacturing company or a retail company, or you look at the marketplace, something like an Amazon, Big Basket, what it is. These kind of companies, what is the industry practice? Best practices. How do we help the client to inculcate these kind of practices within through our internal audit? That's where the advisory role comes. It's not just we going and approaching to the client and with them saying that what are the number of issues that client have, rather than that converting, get them to the best practices, implement that, help the client to have a best compliance internal audit. Then the other thing is the data analytics. Leverage a lot of data analytics tools, gain value insights into the operations, and identify areas to focus on having people, having like a purple people. What do you mean by purple people? Generally, a CA with a lot of tech knowledge, where you can do a data analytics or the cloud computing, verify, build some automatizations. That's where the purple person will help for a client. That sort of people having in the internal audit team is a good idea today. In case if you're not able to have, probably there are outsourced team or a consultant approach. We can keep them in the team to analyze that kind of a data of a client. If you look at it, a lot of them, certain clients, which where we do audit, definitely, in fact, there are 3 lakh orders per day. How do we audit them? Without data analytics, it's highly impossible. That sampling techniques doesn't work at all. But when we apply a data analytics, the whole universe can be subject to audit also. It's need not necessarily be a random checking or whatever the earlier methods that we used to do. And the next approach also can be focus on a single area approach. See, as an internal audit, if we try to take too many areas in particular quarter and a half year, we cannot do justice to that particular area. Rather, we may not be able to go deep in that area, cover all the operational areas, identify all the root causes for the whatever the issues that we have. Again, one approach will not work for all the clients. Probably it is a client specific. That's where the discussion with the management could help us understand the depth of the operation of the client and what is the IT infrastructure that they have. What is the sort of an audit model that we have to build for them is very, very important. It could be in a concurrent, it could be monthly, how fast we can do their operational audit and bring the issues to the client and how fast he can address it. That's very, very important. That's where the single approach can work. Single area approach means just take the revenue part of it, then cost part of it, then probably IT control, then the HR function. Like that, area by area, we can keep focusing. Probably 2 years, 3 years, at complete depth of the operations we have done for a particular client, and probably have minimalistic issues that they come in the internal audit reports. To that level, we need to build controls or operations or build automation for the client. That's where the value addition comes. That's where the advising can help the client. And could also track progress in real time. And we don't, client need not wait for the complete audit report. As and when we keep seeing the issues, client simultaneously can keep addressing those kind of issues. That's where timely, relevant meetings with the management is very, very important. And employing experts also is another thing which was already spoke on the earlier slide. Again, depending on the particular industry, what we are, which audit we are doing. Now, if you look at automobile industry, probably you can look at a lot of data analytics or the engineers, we can look at it. We can also analyze what is the paint for car or per item that they consumed versus the other industry what they consume. Even welding rods, what is the number of welding rods, the quantum of welding rods which they consume versus what is the production they've done. That's where that level of the transaction level and controls we can look at it. That's where the best of the value that what we can give it to the client through the expert. And again, another survey, if you look at it, Asian Confederation of IIA, application of data analytics, if you look at it, this green indicates all areas and blue indicates all key areas, and probably this light blue is moderately and rarely, this part of it rarely. And again, if you look at it, the type of industries, what they have approached, A indicates examine of large data to identify anomalies, trends, and risk indicators of risk evaluation of the root cause analysis. That's where the data analytics they wanting to apply. Again, gathering the B part of it, if you look at that part of industries, gathering related data from multiple sources and systems to provide a pervasive evidence as a basis of a conclusion for an internal audit. That's where certain industries are looking. And certain industries are looking like processing data covering for the whole population part of it, or for audit sampling, they're looking. And the D is the least, where quantifying the impact of errors they're using for the data analytics. Again, it's only a statistics, but the trend is changing. That's what I want to emphasize. And this is again where the IAA has done the survey. What various industries, what is that as an advisor they're expecting, if you look at it, the topmost, what was the last 5 years and what is the past 5 years and the next 5 years, how the trend, if you have to look at it, the on topmost is the assurance over the governance. That's what they wanted. Then next level it is look at the data analytics and support in the business continuity effort and efforts of the entity. Then next is the assurance over the organization, enterprise risk management. They want that. That's what the statistics suggest. That's where again and again every survey which indicates probably the lot of industry and the client expects we play a more advisory role than just doing an internal audit and giving the report part of it. And if you also look at it, how many people are using this emerging technologies? If you look at it, GRC, quite a lot of them using 70% yes, and 29% no. Data analytics, yes, 70% yes, 30% no. Agile audit, probably they're moving from agile audit to the more of GRC, data analytics, or cloud computing side of it. Or more so, a lot of them are going to RPA, that's a robust process automations. That's where a lot of banking and those kind of people have moved here, but still a lot of industries have to move towards that. And if you have to look at it, the requirements to thrive in an advisory role, what all we should do, this is where probably the maximum where I need to talk. How do we do this just in time? If you look at it, a lot of automobile industries, they don't want to acquire too much of, they don't want to stock too much of inventory. That's why always they procure just in time approach. That's why if you look at any automobile industry comes, there is a periphery, a lot of other support industry comes so that all the supply can happen just in time. A similar way, our approach provide audit just in time. How do we do this in depth and right in time, whether we not too far away from the quarter to quarter or from the service to service that what we provide? How can we build that gap at the lesser and lesser in the process audit or a timely audit, what we can give? That's very, very important to the client. And again, I was telling, one size does not fit all of them. The industry to industry, client requirement to requirement, probably we need to suit our audit programs. As I said, some of them it can be a concurrent, some of them it can be a monthly, some of them it can be quarterly, half yearly, depending on what it is. Plus, as I also was telling, a single focused area side. That's where we can closely sit with the management and how we suggest them what is important at particular point of time to the client. As it emerges, probably the periodicity can come down, the focus can keep changing into the different areas. And how do we can have a collaborative approach with the client, take the journey with our clients. As the client grows, we should also, as an audit advisor, we should keep growing with the client. Whether client technology keeps changing, can we keep a pace with the technology and trends and the audit approaches, how we can have a collaborative approach to grow with the client. And then mix it up a little bit, break some eggs sort of an approach, what it is. Keep challenging our audit programs, keep challenging our process, and keep challenging going to the deeper in respective areas. Probably as the maturity goes up in auditing each and every area, probably we keep going further deeper and to identify there any further issues as the business keeping a pace with the industry. What is the outcome driven? Again, I've emphasized quite a lot on the what are the value drivers that we can bring it to the client in terms of many things we can bring it. If you look at it, a lot of clients we also suggest where I said the data analytics, but there are certain clients where we could do the route optimization help for them, because when the daily they have to distribute channels where the daily they have to give their products into the city or the shops or whatever it is, do you have a single approach or an automation way which route he has to go? Otherwise, he keeps going into the various, whatever the route that he wants. There are a lot of tools that are available, something like route optimization tools. Like that, various industries might require various things. As an auditor, can we suggest that right sort of a tools, right sort of a technology? That's where value drivers would help the client. Again, we need to be quick and iterative. Various confined plans, how we can discuss with the clients. A continuous communication with the stakeholders. Again, it's very, very important. I've been talking in the couple of slides also. That's where we need to understand the client. Continuous communication can help to modify the audit program or the what are the observations, what we have bring in, what are the operational controls, and what could be the legal issues or how the emerging risks that they're coming. The client explains that's where we can keep on integrating all this with our audit programs and keep delivering the high quality work to the client. And decisiveness as we go, the transparency, alignment to the program, alignment to the client growth is very important. That's where again I've been talking. And probably we can also look at the impact over thoroughness of an audit. Always the 80-20 policy, which can always work. The probably 20% of the top clients will give you the 80% of the sort of a revenue. At the same time, 20% of 80% of the procurement can come from the 20% of the vendors. That 80-20 policy applies always. Whether can we do that sort of an 80-20 approach also in the audit? And as I said again, deploying data analytics, it can be in an audit universe of even 100% also. Again, that's where probably we were in an audit role, we were an assurers, and then probably now we need to are able to do some bit of an assessors, and probably we have to move towards quite a lot of an advisor to the client as a part of an internal audit. That's where probably the statistics also suggest that's where the more of an advisory role we are playing a role. I think I closed my presentation much faster probably. That's it. This is the last slide. I'll be glad to take any questions, please.
Sir, we have one question. IA versus AI, internal audit versus artificial intelligence. Please give me a brief on that.
See, even in the audit, we can bring in certain artificial intelligence. We should be able to afford those kind of bots. So there are a lot of data analytics tools which are available today, even in certain environment of an audit. Now, suppose if you have to look at the purchase procedure, if these bots are generally work with a lot of good ERP systems, either the Take Oracle or the SAP or a Navision. These bots are available. At least the routine part of the internal audit can be taken care by them through the these kind of bots which are available or the AIs which are available. We should be able to afford it and integrate. Even we are not able to integrate, the talent is available through the data analytics people, the scientists are available, or as I said, the purple person CA with the combination of technology also can play a good role. And that's where we can integrate both together, IA with the AI.
That's all from the question side, sir. Thank you so much for your valuable input. Please accept our Wellington protestation of gratitude. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So we have our last session. Our last session is on modern topics and trends in internal audit by CA Jitendra Indoria. He is a chartered accountant with 11 years of post-qualification experience in internal audit. He has worked on internal audit, ERM, IFE, SOP for various large corporates and currently heading internal audit and business finance function of a building material company. With this brief introduction, I welcome you, sir, and over to you.
Thank you, Charmi. Good evening, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank Nandaji and IASB for organizing this session. So my topic is, modern topics and trends in internal audit. Let me just share my screen. Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thanks. So earlier, an auditor was someone who was just looking at the financial statements of the company, and there was not much internal audits happening in the organization, or there were not much operational reviews or process reviews which were happening. But then over a period, they started asking that what kind of value addition is the internal auditor or the auditor is doing. At that time, the perspective of internal audit or the audits have changed, and there is if we see the last 50-60 years of evolution of internal audit, then we have come very far from where we had started. So as per the ICAI's publication of 2018 related to framework governing the internal audits, and internal audits basically provides independent assurance on the effectiveness of internal controls and the risk management process to enhance the governance and of the organization. So the agenda for today will be, evolution of internal audit. What are the core curve has moved up for internal audit? What are the value additions which are done by IA? New focus areas for internal auditors, and then whatever will be there in the presentation, we will summarize it into one slide to take the learning with us. So if we see from the last a decade, the role of internal auditor has changed a lot. So, in if I talk about 1950, then the audit was primarily dealing with the accounting matters, and it was, in the line with extension of extension of an external audit function. Then, after 10 years approx in 1960, the auditor has started dealing with accounting as well as the operations part. In 1970, a major breakthrough came in viewing the audit field, as consisting simply of the operations. Approximately in 1980, the alteration of definition of internal audit came from a service to management to service to the organization, and more attention to corporate areas and raising internal audit to a high profile audit function. In 1990, concept of auditor independence and compliance with profession standards and ethics, and then role changed to assurance and consulting. In the year 2000, the role shifted to corporate governance, and then again in 2020, there is a major shift in internal audit, which we will discuss in the next slides. So if we see the journey of evolution of internal audit, there has been a consistent change in the way organization look at the internal audit. Hence, we have to adapt and integrate internal audit also with modern tools and technologies to deliver the value. So if we compare the traditional audit steps with the modern audit steps, which are integrated with data analytics. So in the traditional audit step, we used to confirm the audit scope and objective. Then we were developing an enhanced audit scope. Then the audit was done at the timelines which were defined, and whatever the detailed audit scope was there, and whatever the hypotheses were documented to perform the review, those hypotheses were tested, and then whatever result was there for the audit, it was communicated to the client or the management in terms of the audit report. But after coming or after integrating the data analytics into internal audit, now at the time of confirming the audit scope and objective, at the same time, now the internal audit team has started identifying the potential analytics also. And once the analytics are identified, basis the analytics, data and everything is extracted from the system, and the data is compared, analyzed, and visualized. And in place of defining the detailed audit scope, now the testing hypothesis is developed. This is the feedback received from the board or audit committee, or the management or the in-house audit team, in case it has been performed by an outside agency. And once the hypothesis is developed, then basis that audit sampling is done, and the hypothesis is tested. And in new trends now, at the place of the traditional audit report, now there are dashboards and storyboards which have replaced the traditional audit report. So now the board also wants a 2-pager 3-pager report, which will communicate all the audit findings in a visually pleasable manner, wherein the board and audit committee can go through it in a very quick way. So these are some of the core objectives of internal audit. So IA majorly focuses on below core objective, which are to protect and enhance the value to the stakeholders while conducting the internal audit reviews. So the first is to compliance the company philosophy. So whatever is the objective of the company or the philosophy which they have defined, practically IA goes there and see that whether there are compliance to the company philosophy which they have defined at the management level. Second expectation or the objective of internal audit is to compare the existing process with the leading industry process or leading industry practices. So nowadays, many of the companies or many of the boards have started asking that if compare the current practice with the industry leaders, and tell us that where are the gaps which we need to fulfill. The third and most important thing which most of the management has started looking is identification of the possible cost leakages. So the this is some area where everyone is interested that which are the loopholes which are available, or where is the scope of any cost leakages which can be plugged in, and is there any scope of cost saving. Fourth objective is to focus on the fraud and business process risk. So you know nowadays an internal auditor needs to when they do the process walkthrough, they need to focus on that where are the chances where a fraud or a fraud can happen, or where is the major risk which is lying in the whole process which they are reviewing. Fifth is enhancement of operational and system controls. As in the previous the previous speakers have also mentioned that more and more system control needs to be put in place. So as we say in internal audit that processes should be system driven and not the person driven. So the core objective of internal audit is to identify where are the system control labs, and what are the system controls which can be put in place so that any wrongdoing cannot happen. Next objective is to assurance on the control design and effectiveness, which is IFC testing. Internal audit is also certifying that whatever control designs which management has put in place, whether those controls are effective or not, and if those controls are not effective, what are the ways in which those controls can be made effective. Next objective is focused approach for control validation. Again, it is in continuation to the last point, wherein the controls which are defined, those controls are tested, and whatever the loopholes are there, that loopholes are highlighted to manage. Next objective is to suggest the opportunities for process improvement. So whatever areas are being performed as part of internal audit, every management will ask for providing the opportunities where the process can be improved, or the process can be made more robust. So if we compare the basic IA function with the IA function of the future, so globally, the internal audit function is undergoing a massive transformation in scope, approach, methodology, etc., to meet the overall objective and expectations of the various stakeholders. This is also helping the auditors to move up the maturity curve, that is from a basic internal audit function to the internal audit function of the future. So, if you see the basic difference of both the functions, so the key objective of basic IA function is to just check the compliance to policies and SOP, and report if there are any non-compliance to the existing policies or SOP. However, the IA of future, the objective is more on the assurance and the value addition. It is more on giving the assurance that the current, if the current processes are running okay, or if there is something which needs to be done, and what value addition IA is making to the process which they are reviewing. In basic IA function, the functional leader is mainly head of internal audit, wherein the IA of future, these are CXO level employees or chief audit executives, which are mainly reporting to directly to the board of directors. The role of basic IA function was as fault finder or policing. So the traditional internal auditors were mainly looked at like the fault finders, that if an auditor comes to audit any of the business process, they are they will find the fault, and they are here to do the policing. However, the future IA function role is to consultant to management. So Nowadays it is a very very good in trend that before start of the audit, the auditors sit with the management also to understand their expectation from any specific business process, and what they want to achieve by doing the internal audit of this function, and according to that the internal audit is performed and the outcome is shared with the management. The basic IA function methodology was, checklist driven. At the start of the audit, the auditor used to prepare a checklist that, these are the 15 steps we need to perform. Whatever is the risk profile of area or whatever is the risk profile of company, that does not matter. So these were, very standard checklists which were prepared for, suppose if I am doing purchase to pay or procure to pay function audit, then there will be standard 50-60 checks which I'll perform, like, open PO, open PR, or a rate variation. Uh, these are the some of the checks which, checklist which were prepared, and though that was, very traditional way of doing internal audit. So, nowadays it is mainly, risk based audit, wherein, key risk are identified, and, main focus is on, evaluating those risks and see that, how to mitigate that. In basic IA function, the fraud coverage was very reactive. However, in the future IA function, it is very proactive. So, at the time of designing the controls, or at the time of doing the internal audit, the mindset is to identify areas where the potential fraud can happen, and how to plug that loophole. That is, a very proactive way of doing internal audit. Basic IA function was mainly, the frequency was a periodic interval, like, 6 months or a year. However, nowadays it is a continuous control monitoring kind of environment, wherein, on continuous basis or on real time basis, the controls are evaluated, and see that, all the controls are working fine. The delivery model of, the basic IA function was mainly on the on-site audits, whereas, in future it is combination of both on-site and offshore audits, wherein, some part is done on-site, and some part is, done at the ground level. The basic IA function was very, in the audit was very isolated, wherein auditor will go take the data, and they will do the audit, and share the findings with the process owners or the management. However, the future IA function is, mainly the collaborative one, wherein, the uh, wherein all the stakeholders are involved, and feedback and suggestions of all the stakeholders are taken into consideration while doing the internal audit. In the basic IA function, the subject matter experts involvement was very nil to limited. However, in future IA function, each and every area, there are some subject matter experts which are, involved. Like if we are doing audit of plant maintenance, then, a mechanical engineer will be involved in that. If we are doing a project review, then, a civil engineer will also be involved to, check the bills and everything. If we are doing any work on data security or any IT audit, then the, expert of IT or expert of data security will be involved to, evaluate various aspects of data security. So these are, some of the expectations of various stakeholders which they expect from internal audit. So for process owner, they their expectation is to, the observation should be very genuine. uh, the auditor who is performing the internal audit needs to have, adequate process understanding, so that, in order to achieve the first objective, or the first objective of the internal audit, that is, to the first they'll not able to come out with a good or genuine observation. Also, the expectation of stakeholders is that auditors should listen to their point of view also. And sometimes it is business call or something which has led to certain deviations from the standard procedures, and there are certain point of views which all the process owners has, so the auditor should listen to that uh, point of view also while drafting or framing their observation. Also, the suggestions or the recommendations which internal auditor is giving as part of their management, as part of the internal audit report, wherein against each observation they need to give certain recommendations. Those recommendations should be practical suggestions which can be actually implemented. Also, they want the auditors to appreciate the good work which they have done. So suppose if they have implemented all the past observations, or if the auditor has not find any observation in the area which they are auditing, because the controls are very good or working very effectively, then that needs to be appreciated also, which is also one of the expectation of the process owner. So the process owner, so the expectation of HOD, CFO, CEO, or MD is the audit should do a value addition, which should impact the business also. The format of audit report should be very summarized, as I mentioned in the past slides also, that nowadays the management is asking to 4 or 5 pager report, or a dashboard wherein all the observations can be shown at one place, and the key highlights of the reports can be summarized and presented to the audit committee also. They also want that whatever area the auditor is auditing, that for that area overall risk assessment should be done by the auditor, and whatever observation is there, the presentation of that observation should be very fair, so that observation should not be misleading. They also want whatever observation has come, what is the root cause for that observation, and the recommendation of the observation should be related to root cause also, that why that particular thing had happened, or why there was any deviation from the process, or why any wrong thing had happened, and what should be the future course of action, or what is the recommendation through which that root cause can be eliminated. Also, whatever observations are raised as part of the audit report, the acceptance of the process owner should be there for each and every observation. Also, the board is very much interested in knowing the implementation status of the past observation. It should not happen that every year there is audit happening, but whatever recommendations are given by the auditors, those recommendations are not implemented by the process owners. If they are not implementing the observation, that should be highlighted to the audit committee or the management also. So the audit committee and board expectation is to have the observations to the point. There should be very crisp and summarized observation which needs to be presented to the audit committee or the board. Again, they also need an overall coverage and the risk assessment, that whatever critical areas were there in the company, so all those areas, whether as part of internal audit, has been covered, and what is the risk assessment for each and every area. Also, they want the key issues to be highlighted, and they also want that if there are certain issues which which are very critical, those can be highlighted during the quarter also. It need not wait till the end of the quarter for board meeting to happen. They can be there can be flash reports also, wherein the key issues are highlighted to board immediately. They also need quick timelines and responsibility for implementation. Again, it should not happen that the timelines are unrealistic, or the timelines are given for a year or 2 year. It should be very realistic timeline, and the clear responsibility of implementation should be defined, which should be tracked as part of implementation status. Also, they need assurance on the overall control environment, that whatever preventive and detective controls has been defined as part of IFC or controls, whether those controls are working effectively or not. They need an assurance on that also. So, statutory auditor expectation is to have the overall coverage of scope of audit. Any critical area should not be missed. They also need issues which affect the true and fair view of the accounts. So they also need that at the end of each quarter we should give them audit report and highlight the issues which can affect the true and fair view of the accounts. They will also be interested in knowing the statutory non-compliances, that what are the non-compliances there and how the company is dealing with them. They also need an assurance which they can rely on, and also an comfort which would help them make a proper assessment and save their time also. These are some of the again some of the value additions, or the frameworks which are worked upon by IA. uh, First is internal financial control, wherein policies and procedures to ensure efficient conduct of the business. Safeguarding of assets, prevention and detection of frauds and errors, accuracy and completeness of accounting records, timely preparation of reliable financial information. The next framework is enterprise risk management system, which is called as ERM. So ERM is basically to identify what are the key risk of an organization, and how for each of the risk what is the mitigating control which has been established by the company, and what are the review mechanism for those mitigating control, and how the progress, or what is the action plan for risk mitigation, and how the progress of that action plan is being monitored. Or what as part of ERM, it is basically to highlight that what are the key risks for an organization, whether it is an internal risk or external risk, and what is the mitigation plan, and how that mitigation plan is effectively working. Next framework is fraud risk management, which is FRM, which is mainly related to preventing and detective fraud. And FRM also includes a creative and control environment, or conducting the fraud risk assessment. So in the difference between ERM and FRM is ERM is uh, overall on the basis of what are the key risks which are there for an organization. However, FRM mainly talks about the fraud risk which are there in any of the processes, or how the company is responding to the fraud allegation which are there on any of the supplier or an employee, and what are the tools and technologies which company is using for detecting the frauds. Next framework is legal compliance framework, wherein you know and system is developed to ensure the compliance of legal framework, and also how the compliance monitoring is done, because at the end of quarter it is presented to management also, that whether all the compliances has been made, or if there is any non compliance to any of the legal compliance. So as we are moving ahead in internal audit, and there are certain new areas which are opening up for internal audit. So there are every day there are new areas which are coming up, and management expectation is to have an internal audit for those areas. So for example, first area is ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance. Although ESG mandated reporting is not yet arrived in many jurisdictions, but adoption is immediate in several major economies, or many companies where there are foreign investors, they are you know opting for ESG reporting. So, now the expectation from internal auditor is to check the current ESG disclosure process for internal controls. Also to, initiate trainings as needed to fill the knowledge gap, both within IA and throughout the organization at large. Next area of focus is, cyber security. Uh, so now if we talk in the current environment, data security continues to be a very critical area of risk for organizations because data is now everything. Nowadays, organizations have used data which they want to use for decision making or, making the strategies. At the same time, they also want to secure them from unauthorized access. So they also want internal auditors to, identify avenues through which, data can be leaked to an outside or, unauthorized access of data can be made, and how to plug those loopholes. So nowadays, specific cyber security related audits are also happening, wherein the data loss prevention solutions are recommended, and the ways are identified through which an employee or an person can, or a outside person can, access the data in unauthorized way. uh, One of the areas which are in focus for internal auditors is third party risk management. So many a days, many a time it happens that we have outsourced some of the area to some third party, but it can happen that that third party has also outsourced that service to some other third party. So for example, if you have payroll vendor, or if you have subcontracted a payroll processing to some third party, it may happen that that third party has also subcontracted it to some other third party. So for in-house internal audit functions, now many of the companies have started involving IA for vendor selection process also, wherein they can vet the providers, or you know they can head off any potential problems before they arrive. Or there are specific third party audits which are happening, wherein the auditor visit the third party, or do the proper due diligence of the third party, and if there are any concerns which are highlighted at the early stages only. Also, as part of third party risk management, or it is determined that if a defined process exists for escalating concerns, or obtaining remedies, or extracting penalties from the third party. Next avenue for internal audit is mergers and acquisitions. So in the post pandemic economy, deal making is has started to increase, and internal audit can help that transaction to succeed. So as part of in the internal audit, now the companies have started using the auditors to do the due diligence, or for the target entity, wherein the internal audit visit there, and they do the process review, they test their controls, what technology the target company is using, what are the key risks which are there, what is the status of the internal control environment, uh, and what are the key issues which were there in the past or recent audits. So all those things are highlighted by internal auditor as part of due diligence of the target entity. The next avenue for auditors is crisis management, wherein internal audit plays a very significant role in life cycle of a crisis, from having an opportunity to provide assurance prior to crisis, or advising during a crisis event, or preparing a board reporting post the crisis. Again, as we discussed in the last slide, which is enterprise risk management. So nowadays, internal audit plays a very significant role in driving the enterprise risk management program in the company. So IA should probably focus on ensuring that all critical internal and external risk which are reported to board or the top management, and all the critical risk are covered in the risk register which is prepared by the company. And IA can also play a role in driving significant mitigation plan for critical risk of the company, or they can review the reporting which was made to board, and what was the mitigation plan, and if they can also do the testing that whether that mitigation plan is actually working or not. Next is health, safety, and environment. So HSE is an area which is gaining a lot of importance in the recent past, and internal audit can ensure that companies having adequate controls to manage health and safety risk. HSE should be part of internal audit for you know specifically for manufacturing company. So if we are preparing internal audit plan for any of the manufacturing company, then for the plant reviews, HSE should be very much part of the internal audit. The top agenda should be to have environmental laws compliance, hazardous waste compliance, whether all the noise pollution, air pollution, water pollution, the norms are being followed or not. That should be the top priority for internal audit. The next area for internal audit is related to automation, wherein the auditors are engaged to understand the business strategy, vision, journey, which is related to deployment of automated solutions, and how are risk related matters considered as part of that journey. So internal auditor can perform review of whatever automations has been made, and see that whether all risk related matters has been considered to implement that automation, and if there is any loophole which is available, so that loophole can be plugged in immediately. When auditing the automation solutions, that includes areas such as controls, governance, development life cycle, strategy, code reviews. Like in the last session also, sir was covering the boards part, and someone has asked the question also that what is the difference between AI and IA. So for developing AI also we need someone with the IA background. So AI, okay, AI can be AI is available, or boards can do the internal audit part also, but the logic for how that the function will be performed, that logic is with someone who is doing internal audit. So IA and AI both goes hand in hand. To summarize, how do we adapt the changing landscape, because if we see that the stakeholders need has changed, the risk involved in any of the business function are changing very faster. Every process owner, or every organization need some value addition from each and every internal audit which is happening. So you know internal audit in the changing landscape, it is we can start providing the cyber assurance services. We should audit the end to end risk management function, review the strategic planning processes of the company, and see that if there are any loopholes available. We should adopt the analytics, and do more and more work on the analytics, so the major part of data can be covered. Because if we are doing anything in Excel, that Excel has its own limitation, but if we if we use any of the analytics tool, then that analytics tool can be very helpful to covers large population of data. Also, the internal auditing reporting should be changed, because now in earlier days the report used to be 40 pager, 50 pager, or 60 pager report. But nowadays everyone is looking for summarized report, wherein in 4 5 slides they can see the whole outcome of the audit which was performed. So to adapt to the changing landscape, we should also upgrade ourselves, and enhance our internal audit skills and capabilities. I'm open for any questions now. If you have anything, then I can answer.
Sir,
Yeah.
hello, sir. We have a question for you.
Mm.
What is the difference between IFC and EMR? If you can please mention a few points on it.
Okay. So, IFC is mainly, on the process level, wherein for each and every process, for example, if there is a procurement to pay process, in IFC, the controls are defined. So the whole process is mentioned, and, against each process, what can go wrong, and, what are the controls which are there. So from that, it cannot go wrong, and whether that control is preventive control or detective control. However, in EMR is for the whole organization, that from each and every process, what are the key risks which are there for an organization. Suppose if it is an a purchase, then the key risk is not getting the material at right price at the right time. And in IFC, for purchase function, the IFC controls are defined at each and every activity level. However, the ERM is at very broad level, and all the key risks are highlighted. So suppose if you are designing ERM for HR function, or the risk involved in HR function, then the HR function can risk can be high attrition, or having no succession planning. So these are some of the key risks, so which are there as part of HR.
Sir, the next question is, please give example also of what our end-to-end risk management employ strategy to go slow and gossip while executives are away.
Sorry, didn't get your question.
The question is, what is the difference between IFC and EMR, and
That
also
I have
give
done.
some that you have already elaborated.
Mm.
And then the next person is asking that please give example also of what you are elaborating, like end to end risk management employ strategy to go slow and gossip while executives are away.
Slow and gossip.
Yeah, so when the employees are gossiping, what should be our internal control to keep them away from the gossips?
So that is something which you cannot scope, or that is something which is not part of internal audit. But if I have to say, clear KRS of employee should be defined, so that
True. Um, Thank you, sir. And the next question is, free tools for data analysis. If you can share, it would be very useful.
I think there are not much free tools available, but anyone can go and look at Power BI, because Power BI is giving 40-50 days free trial version, wherein they can use their skills on doing the dashboarding. Other than that, there is one tool which is Alteryx, which is, I think, free for initial 30 days. So if someone has to do the trial, then they can go and check Alteryx also.
Okay. Thank you, sir. The next question is, how many software packages are available for internal audit?
See, there are no standard software packages which are available for internal audit. There are many companies who has many consulting firms who has developed their own softwares to do the internal audit. But again, the software is something which cannot work on their own, because the auditor only needs to put the logic, and the standard software cannot work for each organization.
Okay. Thank you, sir. The next question is how you will enhance the productivity because the employee behave like enemy with any auditor or internal auditor.
See, first of all, like I said, in traditional, internal audit approach, the auditor was looked, as the fault finder. The auditor was looked at, someone who is, here to find the fault. So, we in the opening meeting only we should, bring the auditee on the same page that, we are not here to do fault finding. We are here to make your life easier. We are here to make the, process easier or, the process robust. So, and by giving them good suggestion on the processes or, improving the process effectiveness, we can, gradually bring this enmity down also.
Thank you, sir. The next question is so, what is the difference between ELCA, entity level control, versus ERM?
See, entity level control is again, mainly related to, the. So I'll give example. Like I, mentioned in case of ERM. Uh, ERM is mainly, a risk register wherein the all the risk of an organization are there process wise. So suppose if there is procurement process or if there is inventory process, so the in case of inventory, the major risk can be having very high inventory levels or having very low inventory levels. So the mitigating control can be to have a review mechanism wherein uh, the inventory levels are monitored and the inventory levels are monitored and adequate inventory levels are kept. In case of if you see the entity level control, it is the control testing related to IFC, which is done on the entity level, that what are the controls which an entity is having on the overall level, whether it is related to IT controls or the financial control.
Okay. Uh, Thank you, sir. The next question is there any checklist to be followed for internal audit of cooperative society with banking facilities? If any sample, please share.
There are no standard checklists, but if the person who has asked this question, if they Google it, they may get some sample checklist, or basis the their past experience, they can prepare a checklist. But there is no standard checklist which needs to be followed for any audit.
Uh, Thank you, sir. The next question is can Excel also act as analytical tool? Give some example of analytical tools which one can use.
See, Excel is also again an analytics tool. If we know advanced Excel, then we can do good work on Excel. But again, Excel has some limitations on data. Some of the analytics tool, the one I have already given an example, which is Alteryx. The another tool is Idea, which can be used for data analytics. So for all these tools, we need to define some logic and prepare a script. And once the data is put up there, and once we run the script, then the whatever logic we have put, basis that logic, we can get the output.
Thank you, sir. The next question is there any reference material available for typically large size automobile dealer, that is Audit Universe and Audit Program?
Mm, there is no study material or any ready material for that, but definitely if they search on internet, they may find something, but there is no standard thing which is being published. If someone has prepared and put up it there on internet, they can find it.
Um, the person who had asked the question that what is the difference between ELCA and versus ERM, he says that if there is a difference, then what are those difference? He wanted the typically difference between ELC and ERM.
See, I
Maybe
am.
if you
I have
want
all.
me to answer, I can.
Yes, Reddy ji.
See, ERM means enterprise risk management, typically covers what are the risks for that particular industry. It could be a legal risk, it could be a political risk. What are the risks under which the operates? Identify the risks and probably see how the company operate around that risk. Probably certain cannot do anything political risk. What do? You can't do. Otherwise, you have to move the industry from that particular state to some other particular state, like exactly what Tata Nano did at that particular time, if you have to look at it. That's the enterprise risk management typically, and what risks it operates. How do we mitigate those risks? That is one part of it. Now, if you have to look at the entity level controls, is now typically on the management, how it functions. One is the operational controls, how we have like a procurement to pay or hire to retire. What are the controls? Now there is something called entity level controls. Entity level control, how the budget works, what is their quality policy of the services or products, what it is, and plus how the internal audits are taken, how the budgets work. At an entity level control, which the typically management operates, and operational controls are what, like for the other transaction level controls are on a procurement to pay, as I said. The controls are two or three levels. We can say entity level controls, operational level controls, and the IT level controls. That's how you'll break it up.
So that's all from the question side of our participants. Thank you so much, sir, for elaborating the topic so vividly and lucidly, and also Surendra, sir, for answering the questions of our participants. So, our heartfelt thanks for sparing your valuable time and sharing your precious thought with us. Thank you once again. So, with this note, I, C.A. Charmi Shah, sign off for the day, wishing you a great week ahead, and thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charmi. Thank you. Thank you.